Can workers who are denied, or rather who are laid off because they refuse the vaccine, can they have access to employment insurance?
So, Anthony, we've heard those comments from the minister, but it is important to understand that at this point, all it is comments. In order for this type of a change to deprive people of VI, there would have to be a legislative change. There would actually have to be amendments to the Employment Insurance Act, and that's not something we've heard happening so far. The way the law currently works is an employee gets deprived of VI if they do something that essentially makes it impossible for the employer to continue employing them. Now, with respect to vaccination, it is really right now an employer's choice to let the employee go. It's not something that the employer must do if there's no government mandate. So the basic principle would be that an employee right now should still qualify for EI if, in fact, they choose not to be vaccinated unless there's a government mandate. If that changes, it would require legislative change. At this point, we have not heard of that happening.
So let's talk about severance then. What happens in that case? Because I know we've talked about this before, but are they entitled to it? And does, getting vaccinated or not, does that impact?
So severance is a big issue. A lot of people have already lost their jobs or been suspended indefinitely because they've chosen not to be vaccinated. But here's where we go back to what I said earlier about a government mandate. Whenever there's no government mandate, that means that it's the employer choosing to let the employee go. They don't have to. And in that situation, the laws of severance would say that, yes, an employee that chooses not to be vaccinated should get severance. So for most of these individuals, unless the employer really can show that there was no choice, an employee that loses their job because of the vaccine or because of their employer's vaccine mandate is entitled to their full severance up to 2 years' pay.
Warning really to employers and companies given this, because a lot of companies are trying to enact this, but they're not doing so legally, correct?
That's exactly right. I don't think that employers understand and appreciate the exposure, the financial exposure they have. Important for those employers to get some advice as well.
So we're talking about the legality of the vaccine mandate, but it sort of connects in many ways to the viability, because in terms of the vaccine mandate, we saw it in healthcare or long-term care. It was attempted in certain healthcare settings, but we're seeing as well, because of labor shortages, a lot of these places have to bring back. Alberta inviting their 1,400 healthcare workers, now Niagara Health doing the same for its nearly 200 workers. So you translate that into the overall workforce, that could have a huge impact.
I think absolutely. Employers are struggling to keep people. So if they end up losing more people because of the vaccine and also have to pay them for that privilege, so to speak, that may actually have the effect of putting a lot of businesses under, which is simply bad for everyone.
All right, so let's talk, shift gears for a moment. And kids have returned to remote learning this week. What rights do working parents have if they're based in the office, but of course need to take care of their children?
So in Ontario, we have something called the infectious disease emergency leave, which means that a parent does have a right, if their kid has no school, schools are closed, to stay home with their child. They have a job protected leave of absence, which means the employer cannot punish them or do anything to them in that situation. Even if your child is older, as long as they're under the age of 18, a parent has a right to stay home with their kids as long as those schools are closed.
Real quick, I want to ask in terms of, what employers can do or need to do for their employees, given all this.
So under human rights legislation, an employer does have to accommodate family responsibilities. A couple of things that come to mind is allowing employees to work from home where that is possible. That's very important. Another thing, of course, is to change work hours if needed to allow employees to still meet their financial and family obligations. So there is that duty to accommodate, of course, that employers can't simply choose to ignore.
We appreciate this, as always, shedding light on some very important issues. That is our employment lawyer, Lior Samfiru. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you.